So you're thinking about buying a piece of land, maybe to build your dream home or a weekend getaway, or maybe it's an investment property that you intend to log, mine, or farm. Whatever the case is, here's the deal. I have seen a lot of mistakes made when buying property, and I mean major mistakes, things that people overlook that cost them dearly and even resulted in them selling the property for a loss. It happens, okay? And I don't want it to happen to you, so that's why I created this video to hopefully help you avoid the 5 mistakes when buying property. Hey, I'm Brian Simmons. I'm a licensed real estate agent here in Southern Oregon with eXp Realty. And if there's anything I can do to help you learn, buy, or list real estate here in Southern Oregon, I hope you won't hesitate to reach out. You can call me or text me at 541-954-7758 or shoot me an email if you prefer. You can find my email address down in the description of this video. If you like what you see in this video, definitely click on that like button and hit the subscribe icon and check out some of my other videos about the Southern Oregon real estate market. What are the top 5 mistakes to avoid when buying property? Let's go ahead and get right into it. Number 1, and probably the most common one, is not understanding the zoning and approved uses, okay? What could be worse than finding the absolute perfect property to build your dream home with that gorgeous view that goes to the end of the earth, buying it, and then finding out that you can't actually build on it because the zoning is something like forest resource or exclusive farm use, and a home site approval from the county is not guaranteed, okay? That will take the wind right out of your sails. You see, there's a big long list of rules associated with each type of zoning called zoning ordinances, okay? And those ordinances will include things like permitted uses of the land for each type of zoning. For example, it might say in a rural residential zoning like this that the property can have a single family dwelling, and that's approved by right, okay? So long as you're in compliance with the various other regulations like setbacks and other developmental standards, okay? And by right means that you don't have to go through an administrative review and approval process like you would if you wanted to do something else with this property, like let's say build 2 single-family residential homes, okay? Unfortunately, this mistake is not so uncommon, all right? But here's how you avoid it, okay? As the buyer, you need to do your own due diligence. Do not rely on your realtor, okay? Don't rely on your contractor, your friend, your neighbor, your friend's neighbor, nobody, okay? Don't let them tell you what is an approved use of the property. You need to call or go into the county planning department and tell them what you're interested in doing with the property, okay? Tell them, hey, I'm buying 123 Main Street, which is a terrible example of an address for a rural property, but let's go with it. You call them or go down there in person and tell them what you want to do with the property, have a conversation with them about it, and make sure that you get everything in writing, okay? Take notes of who you talk to. The running joke with the counties around here, at least, is if you don't like the answer you got, go back and talk to somebody else, okay? It's sad, but it's true, okay? So get confirmation that you can do what you want to do, get it in writing via email or actually on paper, and make sure that you have absolute confirmation that you can do what you want to do so you don't make this big mistake. And the same thing goes for properties in the city too, okay? If you want to buy a piece of property and put a duplex on it, you better make sure that that property is zoned to have multifamily residential housing on it, okay? So do your due diligence. Mistake number 2 is to totally disregard the value of improvements, okay? And what are improvements? Well, the short answer is a well, septic, and power, okay? And the reason that these are important are pretty obvious, and there's also some that are not so obvious at the same time. So the not so obvious reason is for financing. Most lenders I know will not loan on unimproved land, okay? They generally want to see at least 2, if not all 3 of the improvements made before they loan against that property. But the other important part of having the improvements on the property is that you avoid the great unknown, okay? You might be thinking, you know, oh, I'll just have my well poked in right over here, and I'll have my septic system dug in over there, and I'll just bring my power right up through the middle here. And that's all great until DEQ comes over and says, you know what, actually that septic system needs to be right here. And it's gonna actually require some pumps and some really expensive equipment, okay? Or when your well drillers over there drilling away and they tell you, hey, you know, we're 500 feet down and we're not really getting much water, and yeah, there's really nowhere else we can go because that septic system's going at our only other location. So that's a bummer, okay? Or if the power company says, you know what, actually, we're gonna have to have your power come right through here, and that's right where you thought your driveway was gonna go, and now you have to rearrange all of your plans for the layout of your house because you didn't do your due diligence ahead of time, okay? So having the improvements there when you buy the property takes a huge amount of that guesswork out, because you know where everything is and you can start to plan around the location of things. And something I hear a lot about this topic is that people want to have their own brand new well or own brand new septic. And the useful life on a well is a long time, okay? So I wouldn't really worry about that. It's a lot easier to make repairs generally to an existing system than it is to put a whole brand new system in most cases, okay? And that's probably a good segue into our third mistake, which is to completely underestimate the costs of a well, a septic system, power, a house pad, all those sorts of things. And like I just said, there are just so many unknowns, okay? Just because your neighboring property has a standard septic system and their well's 100 feet deep and produces 30 gallons a minute, that doesn't mean your property will, all right? You might run into a different soil type that requires a sand filter septic or an engineered septic system, and I've heard of those costing upward of $50,000 as compared to a standard septic system, which can cost less than $10,000, all right? And drilling a well can cost $30 to $60 a foot from what I've heard around here, at least. And my well at my old house was over 800 feet deep, okay? So if you ran into that scenario, you could be 50 grand into a well. And power? You'd think the power company would be willing to do the work for you, since they're gonna ding you on a power bill for the rest of your life, right? Wrong. No, they are going to hammer you even harder on this one, and it's gonna cost you thousands, okay? So we're talking 6 figures potentially, and we haven't even picked up a hammer or a shovel. And do you think that house pad was cheap back here? The excavator, there's a big dozer right over here. I mean, do you think that stuff was cheap? Dozens of loads of rocks, the engineering to make sure this thing doesn't slide off the hillside. It goes on and on and on, and it can be very, very expensive just to get to the point where you can begin to think about building a house, okay? And that's one of the biggest mistakes people make when buying land. They think it's gonna be a couple grand for a well, maybe a few more for a septic system, and the power is already to the property, so that's gonna be no big deal. But to the property doesn't mean it's actually to the house pad where you're going to build your house, right? It doesn't mean that the transformer that you need to tap into is in the right position, or that you can even use it, right? So to avoid this mistake, do your due diligence, right? Talk to the well drillers, the septic companies, talk to the power company, find out what those experts think and see if they will give you an estimate, or if there's any sort of tests that they can do to assure you that you can accomplish what you want to do with the property. But if you go way above and over budget and you spend all of your money on all those improvements, at least you could just live off the land, right? Right? Well, that brings us to common mistake number 4, okay? And that's planning to live off of the land, right? I'll just build a cabin with my own bare hands, or drag my RV up there, and I'll camp out until I can afford to build a home, okay? Well, in most counties that I'm aware of, at least, they have rules that prevent this type of activity. For example, there's rules about recreational or camping vehicles that prohibit you from living in an RV on your land for more than 30 days in any 12-month period, okay? Unless there's some sort of medical hardship that's been granted. But this is my understanding of the rule, and I obviously encourage you to verify that on your own. But that's in Jackson County in Southern Oregon. That's what the ordinance says, with the exception of if you're actively building a home and your permits have been issued by the county, then you can stay in your RV for up to 9 months. And again, don't take my word for it, please verify with the county, but that's what my current understanding is of the Jackson County ordinance. So, but if you're thinking you're just gonna go all frontiersman on us and you're gonna build a log cabin with trees that are on your own land that you fall with your own axe and you mill them all yourselves, well, I hate to break it to you, but that's probably not gonna fly either, okay? Remember those developmental standards I mentioned in the beginning, okay? Chances are you're gonna need to get a permit for that cabin if you're gonna make it your home, okay? In fact, any building that you do on your property, the county wants to know about so that they can make sure they get their permit fees and update the assessed value of your home for taxation purposes. And they also say that they want to make sure it's safe. So now that you're super pumped about buying some land, let's talk about big mistake number 5 that people make when buying land, and that is thinking that financing will be easy, okay? It's generally not easy to get financing on land. Okay, most banks that I've seen want at least a 25% down payment. The interest rates are typically higher than a conventional mortgage. The term is generally shorter than a conventional mortgage, and most of them are going to require there to be a well and a septic installed, or at least some sort of test so that they know that those systems can be installed. Okay, and construction loans are another option, but they also have their own challenges, and of course private money is another route as well, but that's very, very expensive generally. But the good news here is that there are options and there are ways to buy property if that's exactly what you want to do, okay? There's plenty of great local lenders here who have really wonderful loan products for people wanting to do exactly what you're wanting to do. But it just isn't as easy as going down and getting qualified for like a 30-year conventional loan, right? There's a lot of different requirements for you and for the property that you're going to need to learn about and take into consideration. So if you're looking for some help there and you don't know where to start, let me know and I can share some really good resources with you on that one. Wow. So who is excited about going out and buying property right now? Here's the thing. It can be a lot of work and there can be a lot of unknowns and it can be very expensive, but it can also not be. Okay, it can also be exactly what you dreamed. It can be your dream home. It can all come together exactly how you envision. All right, and that's the unique thing about buying land and building a home is that you get your vision. All right, you get to make the decision on whether or not the juice is worth the squeeze. But I can tell you this: I don't know many people who have built or who have bought a lot, built a custom home on it, and then regretted it. Okay, so if you want to make that dream come true, I am happy and more than on board to help you bring that together. So don't hesitate to reach out to me. Again, I'm Brian Simmons. I'm a licensed real estate agent here with eXp Realty in Southern Oregon. So if there's anything I can do to help you learn, buy, or list real estate here in Southern Oregon, I hope you won't hesitate to reach out. You can call me or text me directly at 541-954-7758. That's my direct number, or shoot me an email if you prefer, and you can find my email address down in the description of this video. So stick around on the channel, check out some of my other videos. There's videos all about Southern Oregon, about the real estate market, about fun places around here, you know, neighborhoods you want to check out. So stick around, check them out, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.